Greetings, my name is Kerry and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you some of the books I plan to read in January 2020. So, new year, it's January, it's 2020, new decade, we're now in the roaring 20s again. You'll hopefully have seen already my reading plans for 2020, and so now I'm going to narrow down and just talk about some of the books I'm hoping to read in January. Now, I did mention in that video that one of my plans for the year is to really focus on reading books that I own over books that I'm borrowing or buying new books. At this point in time, I have a lot of books out from the library and they're ones that I'm really reluctant to take back without reading. So actually in January, I'm really going to be focusing on finishing all these library books and then taking them back. And then I'm going to try very hard to not borrow that many more books from the library for the rest of the year. We'll see how that goes. It probably won't go well, but never mind. So the majority of the books I'm going to try and get through in January are library books, but I kind of set myself the goal that this is the last month I'm allowed to borrow them. Some of them I have had out for a few months already, so I'm not going to renew them again if I haven't read them in January. They'll be going back to the library at the end of this month, whether I've read them or not. That doesn't mean that at some point in the future I might not borrow them again. It just means that for now this is sort of the last chance to read them, really. I have put them in sort of order of priority. I realised that the book I'm currently reading, which is a library book, I have left upstairs, so I'm going to stick a picture up because I can't be bothered to go and get it. At the moment I'm reading King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo. This is at the moment the latest book in the Grishaverse. It's the first in the I think it's going to be a duology about Nikolai, who is one of my favourite characters in the earlier books. So I've not read a lot of it yet, maybe 50 pages, but I'm really enjoying it so far. So that I have out from the library. And that's my first one that I'm trying to finish off, because then I'll be up to date on that series. Then another one that I have out that is to help me finish a series is Ancillary Mercy by Leckie. This is the final book in the Imperial Raj trilogy. I've really been enjoying the series, so I'm looking forward to getting to this one and finishing this series off and seeing how it develops. And then I believe Leckie has a fantasy book coming out at some point in the near future. Maybe this year or next year. I'm not entirely sure when, but I'll be trying to get my hands on that when I can. So this is a sci-fi series about a galactic empire, and the central character Breck used to be the AI of a large troop-carrying spaceship where her consciousness was split between the ship and hundreds of soldiers who were formerly human but were then linked in to become part of the AI. It's slightly complicated anyway, but now all that remains is one human body with this vast consciousness in it. In the first book she's trying to get revenge on what happened to destroy her ship, really, and then the story develops on from there. So this is the third book in the series. I'm really intrigued to see how it rounds off and where it goes. I'm just getting over a cold, so I'm sorry if I'm a bit snuffly. Another one for carrying on a series that I've been really enjoying is Windwitch by Dennard. This is the second book in the Witchland series. I loved Truth Witch, which is the first one. I read that in September. I've been meaning to read this ever since, and I've kind of been putting it off because I know that once I've read this one, I've got Sight Witch, which is a companion prequel novella, I think, and I've got Blood Witch, and then I don't know when the next one is coming out, so I think that's why I've been delaying slightly, because I'm really invested in these characters and I know I'm gonna have to wait to find out what happens to them all, but never mind. So I need to read this soon because it's been too long since I read Truth Witch now, and I just really want to get on with this series. And then another series that I want to carry on with is Archenemies by Marissa Meyer. This is the second book in the Renegades trilogy now it is, and I really enjoyed Renegades, the first book, which is about two rival groups of superheroes, the anarchists who ruled for a number of years, if anarchists can rule, and then the renegades who fought against them and defeated them and now are sort of running things. The central characters are Nova, who is the niece of one of the key anarchist figures, and they've been driven underground, so she wants to get revenge for what happened to her family, which she blames the renegades for. And Adrian, who is the son of the two lead renegades and is very much on their side, but also has a secret that he hasn't told anyone. Nova goes undercover with the renegades to try and bring them down from the inside, and it's just brilliantly written, and I really enjoyed the first one, so again, been meaning to get to to carry on with this series for ages, and the third one has just come out, so hopefully we'll catch up on this series soon. Right, then I've got a few standalones that I've been meaning to read for ages. So we've got Uprooted by Naomi Novik, and this is a Rapunzel retelling. I'm quite into fairy tale retellings at the moment, and I've again been wanting to read this one for ages, so need to try and get to it soon. I don't know a great deal about some of these books really, because I tend to go into books not knowing very much about it. Then we've got The Astonishing Colour of After by Emily X.R. Pan. This is a book that has been talked about quite a lot on BookTube. It's about a girl whose mother has passed away and she is trying to find out more about her family history. I think there's a little bit of magical realism in there, and I've heard some really good things about it, so when I saw it in the library I just picked it up on impulse and really wanted to read it. But again, I've had it out for a couple of months now and haven't got around to it yet, so trying to get to that one soon. Okay, next we have another one that's carrying on a series, which is Children of Dune by Frank Herbert. This is the third book in the Dune series. I own all the Dune books, or all the original Dune books by Frank Herbert, but I had the first three in an omnibus bind up and I found it really difficult to read, so I've been working through getting the first three books from the library. So this is the last one I'll be getting out from the library, and then I'll be reading my own copies of these books. So really keen to get to this one. It's science fiction, but it kind of, to me, reads more like a fantasy. The way it's structured, there's a lot about sort of the political systems of the day, this future society, and it's all centres around this planet called Arrakis, which is a desert planet, but it is the main source of a substance called spice, which is like a drug that a lot of people are addicted to, and it's about the political intrigues that go into who owns and runs this planet. And so I'm really keen to carry on with this series. It took me a while to get into the first one, but I really enjoyed the second one, so I'm quite keen to carry on and see where this goes next. So the next one is another sci-fi one actually, which I've heard a lot of good things about. This is The Calculating Stars by Mary Robinette Kowal. I believe this is an alternate history about the early days of the space race, and again I've heard some really good things about it. I don't know a lot about it, just that I've heard that a lot of people really like this book, although I have heard a couple of people who really dislike this book as well, but that's the way things goes. So when I was in the library, I was actually in the library looking for Ancillary Mercy. It was one of the county libraries, but not my local one. I just popped in on my lunch break at work because I happen to be working near there, and I was looking for Ancillary Mercy, and I saw this one on the shelf, and as I picked it up, the librarian Hannah, she went crazy. She was like, that book is amazing, you'll really love it, it's so good, I've just read it and it's brilliant. So I was just like, okay, I have to read it now. And then she helped me find Ancillary Mercy as well, so that was really cool. And I just love it that's one of the things I love about libraries, is the staff there are so passionate about what they do and really great for recommending books. So yeah, again, this was one I've heard a lot of good things about and really keen to get to it. And then I also have The Queens of Innis, Lear. Yeah, so this is a fantasy retelling of the story of King Lear by Shakespeare, which is one of my favourite Shakespeare plays, although it's very gruesome in places, and I love Shakespeare retellings, so I'm really excited to read this one and see how it is handled, really. And then finally, for my library books that I'm trying to read, I have City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. Again, this is a series I've heard a lot of good things about on BookTube, and I think the third one comes out, if it's not out already, the third one comes out this year, so I want to try and catch up on them because, again, I've heard a lot of good things. So this one is a fantasy set in Egypt and involving the Jinni. Yeah, really keen to read that one as well. Keen to read all of them. So those are all my library books I have out. That is roughly the order that I was planning to read them in. I don't know, I might change my mind. Yeah, most of them are due back at the end of the month, so I have about a month to try and get through as many of them as possible. I probably won't get through all of them because I have to work, but I'm going to do my best, and as I say, any at the end of the month that I haven't read, I will be returning to the library. For now, I might get them out again in the future, but then that will give me a clean slate in February to focus on books that I actually own. Now, in addition to that, I have picked my Book Death Row books for January. If you saw my reading plans for the year. I'm going to be trying to read 2 Book Death Row books a month from now on, with the idea that I'll either read them or unhaul them at the end of the month if I haven't managed to read them. So I've picked my 2 for this month. I used a random number generator to pick 2 from the list. So the first one of these is The God of Small Things by Arudhati Roy. I did read the first chapter of this and found it quite intriguing. I can't remember what it's about off the top of my head, but it is one that I definitely wanted to carry on with, so that is the one I'm going to try and get to first out of these 2, and then the other one is 10,000 Sorrows by Elizabeth Kim. This one, again, I read the first chapter of this one and didn't decide I didn't want to read it based on that, but I'm less bothered about it. It is a memoir of a young woman growing up as the orphan daughter of an American soldier and a Korean woman, and she was treated very harshly because of that, and so it's her story of how she overcame that. It has really mixed reviews, but I'm going to try and go into it with an open mind. But actually, at the moment, if I don't get to this one, I'm not overly fussed, but I'm going to see if I get time. So those are my 2 Book Death Row books, and then if I do manage to get through all of that, I'm going to start working on some of my other challenges, like some from my own TBR, some Read Around the World ones, and some independently published ones. So that's all the books I'm intending to read in January. I know I probably won't get through all of them, but never mind. Let me know down in the comments if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them, and if you think I should prioritise them over any of the others, and let me know some of what you're intending to read in January. Please think about subscribing to my channel if you haven't already, and you can also follow me on my social media. So if you want up-to-date info on what books I'm reading, the best place to find me is on Goodreads, because I update that fairly regularly. I'm also on Twitter, where I'll be keeping track of some of my other challenges that I have going on. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye!